Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Kogan. Drip.
Snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go.
All right. All right, guys, on to our next story. This will be an interesting one for today for sure, okay? So, we're about a month into 2025, and, you know, I did my year-end series first week of January, and we talked all about the playthroughs that I thought were the best playthroughs and the worst playthroughs, and a lot of people disagreed with me and stuff like that, but there was one resonating theme throughout my year-end series this year, and it was basically the following. 2024 was an underwhelming year for games. Sadly, in 2024, it just seemed that it didn't have many or any high-profile releases of note. And then when I say stuff like that, people like get so angry with me. They really do. They come after me and they go for my jugular and they're like, oh, Phil, it's just because you don't like the games that were good and blah, blah, blah. And what about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? And what about Metaphor? And what about blah, 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 blah. And they always got to reference a JRPG, seriously, which we've already talked about JRPG overload and how it majorly affected last year, that too many came out in a short period of time and they all undercut each other and killed each other off. You know, it's cannibalism, basically. The market can't support that many of a similar kind of game within a short period of time, and it completely blew back on itself. It really did. So the reason I'm bringing this up today is because the sales results have finally been released. Overall, what was the best-selling games of 2024. Are you ready for this, folks? I'm sure that since last year was not a year where all the games were underwhelming and there was no, RPG apocalypse, there was no RPG overload, right? Everyone disagreed with me on that. Surely it means that all these games that you guys talked about that were the best games of the year must have been the top selling. Here's the top selling games of 2024. Number 1, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Number 2, College Football 25. Number 3, Helldivers 2. Number 4, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Don't worry, we're going to talk about each of these. Number 5, NBA 2K25. Number 6, Madden 25. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Number 7, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. The one from the year before. Number 8, FC 25. If you don't know what that is, Football Club 25, because EA lost the FIFA licensing. Number 9, Elden Ring, a game from 2023. And number 10, the MVP bundle that I believe included college football and Madden. You can't make this up. These are the top 10 best-selling games of the year. Now, do you see a distinct difference between this list and the list from 2023? Did you remember that the top-selling game of 2023 was Hogwarts Legacy? You remember that, right? And it was a big news because a different game other than Call of Duty was actually the best-selling game of the year. And the funny part about the news was that even though it was the best-selling game of the year, it got completely snubbed by the Game Awards and everybody else because, oh no, J.K. Rowling and the things she says on social media about trans people. Oh no, we can't like the game because we're a bunch of fucking sissies. So in 2023, a legitimately interesting, good game took the world by storm and sold hotcakes. But no one wanted to talk about it because they were all leftist, stupid political journalists, right? So we can't mention that the game sold well and is great. We can't do that because J.K. Rowling. So what happens is, in 2024, we just go back to the fucking norm. We just go right back to a zillion sports games, Call of Duty, and a couple odds and ends that are hilarious because if you look at them, they're not even popular anymore. Do you see any JRPGs in here, folks? Man, look at that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Look at that, Like a Dragon Infinite Well. How about that Dragon's Dogma 2? What about Metaphor? It's in there, right? Even though you may like a game, and even though I agree with you on some of these games, for example, I only played 12 hours of Metaphor, and I can wholeheartedly tell you, if I had played Metaphor, I would have loved it. I could tell it's better than Persona. It seemed to me better than Persona. And I was all over. I wanted to play it. I just didn't get to play it because, sadly, my streams would not support it. And I don't know what else to say about that. I've already talked about it till I was blue in the face, right? But even though I agree with you that some of these games were great, all right? I hate to tell you guys, these games don't sell, all right? These 400 JRPGs that came out in 2024 didn't sell. They didn't even crack the top 10. You've got the old Call of Duty outselling the new RPG. You've got Elden Ring, a game that's 2 years old, outselling the new hot RPG. Do you get it? RPGs are popular, but they're for a certain niche. They're for a certain portion of the gaming landscape. But sadly, these people seem to think, oh, RPGs are the biggest thing because I live in my bubble of people who talk about RPGs all the time. They don't sell. Do you want to know what games these big companies were banking on? Do you see Star Wars Outlaws on this list? Do you see Dragon Age The Veilguard on this list? All these big high-profile games that these guys were absolutely hoping were going to be big sellers, big AAA releases, right? Guess what? They didn't even make a drop, a ripple in the sales numbers for the year. And this is what people need to start understanding, okay? Because this has happened, all right? Because this is what's going on in gaming. You're seeing the homogenization of gaming. What does that mean? It means you're seeing samey games make big numbers and nothing is changing. There's no more creativity, no more originality. It's all about what can we do that's samey to everyone else? What can we do to copy what's already out there that's printing money? That is awful for the games industry. You understand that? When there are 7,000 RPGs coming out in 1 year, they cannot sell. Therefore, they can't get attention and no one will ever even care about them besides their little niche audience. Listen up, because I know a lot of people are going to freak out by this. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was not a good selling game in 2024. It doesn't matter how much you cope, how much you seethe, how much you cry, how much you try to justify. It didn't sell well. It did not sell well. They wanted it to, but the hype behind Final Fantasy VII is over, okay? Metaphor didn't sell well. It sold decently, but it should have been giant. It should have been blockbusters. It didn't. Why? Because this is modern gaming now, because we let it get this way. And it's sad. Do you want to see the entire industry become sports games, Call of Duty, and one-off games that fizzled out? Like, let's actually systematically go through this list. Black Ops 6 back on top. Even though everyone complains about the game every single day. Oh, it's unbalanced. Oh, Warzone sucks. Oh, this is broken. Still the best-selling game of the year. So all those bitchy whiners bought the game and keep spending money on it anyway. So it doesn't matter that it's unbalanced and not working. They bought it because they're a bunch of idiots. Okay? Number 2, College Football 25. Now, I can't attest to this one because I'm not a big footballer, nor do I know much about the college football game besides I guess it was a throwback to older titles. So good on it for being the second best-selling game of the year, but I don't care. It's sports, right? Number 3, Helldivers 2. So let's be real about Helldivers 2 now. Helldivers 2 is a great game for about a month and a half. And then you've played enough Helldivers 2 where you've unlocked enough in the game that there's not much else to do besides just hang out with your friends. And at that point, if you're going to continue to play it or not is directly dependent on if you've gotten a group of people with you who are fun to hang out with, in which case the game becomes a hangout session with your buds rather than caring about the game. Because the game doesn't have enough content to hold you for a year. So what happened was Helldivers 2 blew up sales numbers in early 2024. Why? Because no other games were popular. All the other games that were coming out were flopping and were underwhelming. So everyone ran to Helldivers 2 because it was virally popular. And then what happened is over the summer, the game died. Today, the numbers of Helldivers 2 are ridiculously small compared to what it had in early 2024, and no one's buying it anymore. But it sold enough to get top 3. Number 4, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Out of all the games on this list, this is the biggest example of hype makes sales, but sales don't sustain if your game isn't good. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, everyone wanted to play because there hadn't been a major Dragon Ball game in years, because it promised to add new features and elements to the combat of the Dragon Ball, Budokai series. It was supposed to be a throwback, and a lot of people had played the Dragon Ball Budokai series and wanted to see it return. And they promised a narrative mode where you could do different choices and you could see different outcomes of the main story, of the main plot lines of the anime and stuff like that. Yeah, the game was not good. Okay, the game, first of all, online connections, spotty, not great. Completely imbalanced, right? Completely 100% imbalanced. So not fun to play online, not competitive at all. It was a glorified party game. You know, the Budokai series worked back in the day because you would get together with a bunch of your buds. You'd sit down and play the game, whether you had a bunch of brews or not. Maybe you're getting hopped up on soda or something, right? And you sit there and you play a wide variety of characters. The game's completely unbalanced, but that's part of the silly fun of it. And you mess around playing it locally, right? But that's not big business. This game, everyone hyped up as big business. It's the next thing. It's going to be competitive. Did you know 90% of the player base of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero stopped playing it within 30 days and never booted it again? They played it for a few days, played it online, played a little bit through the campaign, said, what is this crap? And they never booted it ever again. Yet it sold so much, it's 4th place on this list because of hype. So again, that's a case of hype over substance. Helldivers is a legitimately great game, just doesn't have enough content. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero actually isn't even a good game. It was all hype. NBA 2K, another sports game. Madden, another sports game. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Now, this one I really don't understand. How did Modern Warfare 3 become the number 7 best-selling game of 2024 when Black Ops 6 is the new game for the year, right? I don't get it. Unless they're counting microtransactions as purchases of the game, which I don't think they are, I have no clue how that could possibly be up there. So, unless there's some kind of a justification, I don't get it. I'm very confused, and I just scratched my head on that one. Okay? FC 25, so again, soccer/football. They didn't have FIFA, still a popular franchise, not shocked that it's up there. Elden Ring. Normally, I'd be like, this makes absolutely no sense, but we all know why Elden Ring is on there. Because Elden Ring had the Shadows of the Erdtree DLC, and a lot of people went back and either rebought the game or bought it for the first time because now the hype is real because now the DLC is coming out. I'm not shocked to see that this is on there. And then, of course, number 10, the MVP bundle between multiple sports games. So, do you understand the point that I'm making here? All right. I'm tired of people who come on my streams and they're like, oh, you just don't like the good games. You just don't, you don't pay attention to what's popular. You don't know what you're talking about. Now, the problem is I do know what I'm talking about, but people live in bubbles. People live in isolation, only listening to social media feeds about the things that they're interested in. And I feel like this actually is a major problem with modern society as a whole. When you're on social media 24/7, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or whatever the alternative to X is today because there's been 17 of them and none of them last. YouTube, or if you're a streamer, on Twitch, on Kick, whatever it is, your social media feed that you're listening to. What's happened is now they're all formulaic. They all actually base what they feed you based on your viewing history. So you very well may think that everyone on the planet loved Metaphor to the point where it absolutely should have been one of the best-selling games of the year, and you'd be living in a fantasy land. Because even though Metaphor, in my opinion, was the best RPG of last year, it didn't catch mainstream appeal. It didn't get enough people interested to buy it so that it could actually get to a top sales list. Those are the games that are getting mainstream attention. That's not good. Do you remember a time when there used to be a variety of games on a list like this? Do you remember when you would have a Mass Effect or a Dragon Age or an Assassin's Creed, and you had competitors to Call of Duty like Battlefield and stuff like that on there? There'd be even a racing game on there, or hell, a game that was a major thing, a Fallout or a Skyrim. Do you remember those days? When was the last time we had a year like that? It's been like 5+ years. If you guys aren't aware, if you look at the sales numbers, it's been like 5 years. That's why last year, when an actual game unseated Call of Duty as the top selling game of the year, why it was number one so shocking, number two so notable, and why it should have been celebrated. Something unseated Call of Duty, a contender to the throne, is actually stepping up to the plate. But instead of it being treated like that, which it should have been mainstream news. Every games media and journalism, every streamer should have been talking about it. Instead, it was like, the game that shall not be named is the bestseller. So we'll pretend like this is no big deal and we won't talk about it because J.K. Rowling is mean to people on the internet. So what happened? We went right back to form. We literally said, oh, well, guess it doesn't matter. And it swung right back. And now here we are, the same boring, blasé crap and a couple flash-in-the-pan games that didn't last. Those are your best sellers for 2024, all right? So here's the deal. If we do not focus on what's important in gaming, this is our future. Get used to this. This will be all we see when it comes to game selling. And you're going to have a million games that are great that no one will care about and no one will buy because people only listen to what's popular. So because of that, you're going to have a games industry that's in a massive decline. Why do you think you got the Phil Spencers of the world saying games are in a decline? Because this is all that sells. They're not making other good games to compete with this shit. The games they're making are underdeveloped, unfinished, uninspired crap. I hope that in 2025, this year, we genuinely have a change. I want to see games come out, be original, be fun, actually get traction, actually get talked about by gamers, streamers, and the game media, and actually get some sales. Enough with this bullshit that we have to find a reason to complain about every fucking game that nothing is good. There has to be some good games in 2025 that aren't Call of Duty and sports, okay? And not, again, flash in the pan, popular for a month game because it was only based on hype, and then the game sucks. I mean, the good news is we do have some huge games scheduled to come out this year. Grand Theft Auto 6. So maybe we will finally see the needle move in a different direction. But I don't feel good as a creator that focuses on games, looking at that as the best-selling games of the year list and knowing that that is the future of what we're looking at. And again, it pisses me off that we had a year where it was different and everyone had to fucking ignore it and act like it didn't happen when it did. So, please, stop playing all the popular games. No, that's not what I'm saying, because some people will take it like that too. They'll be like, oh, so Phil is just saying don't play Call of Duty and don't play sports games. No. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to understand, this is what I've been saying all these years as well, is that gaming really is two audiences. There's people who are the hardcore gamers, people like you and me, who've been in video games for the long haul. I've been a video gamer since the 1980s, right? It's a part of our life. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of our experience growing up. It's very important to us. Then there's people who literally sit around playing Call of Duty and sports games, and that's gaming to them, and that's it. They literally don't play anything else. That's their experience. So to us, every month we're paying 2, 3, 4 different games. We're buying them all. These people say, oh, how much more money can I sink into the microtransactions of the game that I'm playing? Because that's the only game I play. How many skins can I get, right? When's the next Ultimate Team pack that I can open? That's what they're spending their money on. Get it? It's fucked up. That's a pretty bad industry. You know what I mean? So what I really want is for people's eyes to be open and to realize we need to change this. Because if we keep buying into that shit, that's all you're going to see. Samey games every single year. Same titles, same spin-offs of the same title, expansions on the same title, similar games to the same title. I mean, shit, 3 of those entries are American football games. 3 out of the top 10. Do you really want that? I certainly don't. But I think what's happened is the industry has leaned so much towards has to print money. Has to print money. And if it doesn't, it's no good, right? So instead of making a good Dragon Age game, we've got to make the game that has the woke leftist agenda so that people will talk about the game and it'll actually get some attention. Oops, it backfired because this year the woke shit stopped being popular. So now your game flopped because you developed it 3-4 years ago and now you came out at the wrong time, right? If Dragon Age Veilguard came out like 3-4 years ago, it probably would have done a lot better. But it's too late for that. You came out too late. This is a big problem with game development too. They jump on these trends, but it takes so long for the games to come out, the trends don't work anymore. Are you aware that in the last year, something like 20 different live service games were canceled? Because everyone saw games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and GTA Online work as games as a service games. So every game developer said, we want that. So they all took 5 years to make one. And by the time they were going to release them this year, the bubble already burst. No one wants to play games as a service anymore. So because of that, they had to cancel them all. I mean, Suicide Squad was supposed to be a games as a live service game, and they had to completely retool it, and it became a piece of shit. So that's what I mean. Like, the games industry is so far behind the trends that by the time the trend is over, that's when they come out with the game that's part of the trend. So that's why these games are... Concord, you're right, Fed Roger, Concord. That game was how many years in development? Let's release it at exactly the right time when no one cares about this woke ideology anymore and it's failing and we're having a major political shift across the world. Oops, we screwed up. So, yeah, I hope that there's this eye-opening for game developers. But sadly, again, the one thing I'm afraid of, when they see this list, they think, okay, just make games just like this then. Instead of, oh, we messed up. We didn't make enough original games in line with what gamers want to crack the top 10. We got to do things better now. Instead, they may just say, okay, so how do we make another Madden? How do we make another Call of Duty? How do we make another Elden Ring? How do we make another Helldivers, right? That's not what we want. We don't want more of the same because that's the easy way out to print money. We want original games that are good that can then make that list because they're good on their own merits, not because they copied somebody else, right? It's just really, really bad. I'm sorry, it is. And in my opinion, okay, I want to see things change for the better. You can disagree with me. I think we need a big shakeup. I do. I think we need a big, big shakeup because we can't have the games industry continue on like this and expect that we're going to keep getting good games. I miss the days when in 1 year there was a new Assassin's Creed, a Mass Effect, right? A medieval RPG style game like a Skyrim or something, Fallout, right? Then you would have an epic driving game like a new Need for Speed or something like that. That was great. There was so much variety. And now you don't get that variety. Yeah. Wow, I wonder why the RPGs didn't sell. Let's take a look. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Persona 3 Reload, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Dragon's Dogma 2, and like 2 others all released within like 45 days. Gee, I wonder why they're not selling, you fucking idiots. These game developers, and notably the people in charge, the management, right? They need to start looking big picture and realize their games aren't the only games being made, that they have major competition. And if they all release their shit at the same time, they cannibalize each other. They need to work together to space out releases so that the industry can thrive, rather than living in this tunnel vision situation where they all release at once. Again, look what happened with fighting games. Street Fighter 6, then a few months later, Mortal Kombat 1, and then a few months later, Tekken 8. Because they spaced out over the course of about 7 to 8 months. They all got their time in the sun, and they all got to sell well. Can you imagine what would have happened if Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, and Tekken 8 released within 30 days? gaming isn't big enough to support that yet. Maybe in another 10, 20 years, gaming is not big enough to support that. And that's what happened last year. I hope things change in 2025, but I'm nervous. I hope that these games that we're looking now at, oh, this could be good, this could be good. I want them to be good. We need good games of variety. We don't need the samey shit. So let's see what happens, all right? But man, that list is very disheartening. Okay. Dan L. Oso did a $10 super chat during that big rant segment, and he says, you think the video game industry and culture is dying? Mostly normie sports games here. It's not that it's dying. It's that as gaming becomes more mainstream, we used to be the target audience of games. Do you understand that? We, the people who've been playing games since the 80s, and then the 90s, and the 2000s, and the 2010s, and the 2020s, we were the target audience. But as gameplay and gaming in general becomes more mainstream, instead, these other people become the target audience, the people who sit there and play Fortnite all day and dump tons of microtransactions into the game, the people who bought Madden and they spend insane amounts of money on the Ultimate Team features, the people who buy Call of Duty and they buy every season pass and every skin available, right? Those are the people that get catered to now, and that's bad. We don't want them to be the only ones who get attention. We need all gamers to get attention because let's be honest, gaming as an industry will not survive if all that happens is the same games pump out every year. Gaming will just become a big slog and a big decline, right? And it's kind of like, how can I explain this in the television terms? Remember when The Walking Dead first came out? What was it, like 2010, 2011? And do you remember how it felt so different and how it felt so refreshing because zombies were mainstream? And then do you remember when every single game company wanted to make a zombie game? And then there was a zillion zombie shows, including 17 different Walking Dead shows at once, and now no one cares about zombies anymore? That's the point I'm making. Oversaturation makes a market stagnant. We need originality, and we need games that are good enough, that will appeal to a wide audience, but also are fun and different. And we're not getting that, and that's why those are your top games of the year. And then when you get a game like that, like Hogwarts Legacy, the media has to find a reason to cancel it because they're such babies and stupid, selfish fucks. They don't even understand that having a game like Hogwarts Legacy be bigger than Call of Duty is one of the best things ever for the game industry, and they sweep it under the rug because they don't like the politics of J.K. Rowling. It's pathetic little bitchy shit, and it pisses me off. It doesn't need a rant like this? Well, that's it. Instead of doing any more content, I'm going to be ranting all day long on this topic. No Call of Duty, no smart guys, ranting about games in the modern day. You asked for it, you get it. The rants are coming. Take that. All right. I guess I've ranted enough. All right. All right, guys. Let's now open up the final part of the show. Tag me in the chat if you'd like to discuss any topic. I'd like to hear what's on your mind this morning. All right, let's hear it and go from there. All right, and by the way, let's get some support. As I said, let's get it going. Let's hit the goal, not only on this stream, but let's hit the goal right now. Let's hit tier 1 goal right now so that we can work on a tier 2 goal during Call of Duty, so we could do the DSP tries it sometime tomorrow, so we can work on the top 100, hit that 100 goal next week, do the marathon. Let's make it happen. Let's get it going. Let's hit the goal. Who's going to step up and contribute right now? Who's going to be giving some subs over on Kick? We have 0 subs. 0.
I got the drip going. 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 I got the drip going.
It's like a faucet that's dripping. You can't make it stop.
So what do you want me to do? Have a mute button that every second I'm tapping the mute button just in case I'm gonna have to clear? Like, this is what I mean, these dumb kids. This is what it is, it's dumb kids.